I would like to start with a simple question. What do Cristiano Ronaldo, Mark Zuckerberg, Steve Jobs, and Warren Buffett have in common? Take a moment and think about it. At first glance, these people seem completely different. Ronaldo is one of the greatest football players in history. Mark Zuckerberg built one of the world's largest social media platforms. Steve Jobs transformed the technology industry through innovation and design. Warren Buffett became one of the most successful investors of all time. Different industries, different talents, different personalities. So, what is the common factor behind their extraordinary success? Many people would say talent. Others might say intelligence, luck, money, or hard work. While all of these factors may play a role, there is one characteristic that stands out among all of them. They focused intensely on what mattered most. Cristiano Ronaldo did not try to become an expert in 10 different sports. He dedicated countless hours to improving a specific set of skills related to football. Every training session, every practice, every sacrifice was aligned with a single goal: becoming the best football player he could be. Mark Zuckerberg did not wake up one day and decide to build 20 different companies at once. In the early years, his primary focus was growing Facebook and making it better for users. That focused effort helped transform a college project into a global company. Steve Jobs is another great example. When Apple was struggling, he made the bold decision to eliminate many products and focus only on a few that truly mattered. Instead of trying to do everything, he concentrated on doing a few things exceptionally well. Similarly, Warren Buffett did not become successful by chasing every investment opportunity that appeared. He became successful by carefully identifying the opportunities that mattered most and focusing his attention on them. When we look at these successful individuals, a pattern begins to emerge. Their success was not created by doing more things than everyone else. Their success was created by focusing on the right things and giving those things their full attention. Now let's compare that with how most of us live today. We live in a world filled with distractions. Our phones constantly send notifications. Social media competes for our attention. We try to study multiple subjects at once, learn several skills simultaneously, manage numerous responsibilities, and often feel pressured to stay busy every minute of the day. As a result, many of us confuse activity with achievement. We believe that if we are busy, we must be productive. But what if that belief is wrong? What if success is not about doing more? What if success is about doing less, but doing the right things? This is exactly the question explored in the book, The One Thing, written by Gary Keller and Jay Papasan. The authors challenge many of the common beliefs we have about productivity and success. They argue that extraordinary results are not achieved by spreading our energy across many different tasks. Instead, extraordinary results come from identifying the most important task and focusing on it relentlessly. At the heart of the book is one powerful question: what is the one thing I can do such that by doing it, everything else will be easier or unnecessary? This simple question forms the foundation of the entire book. It encourages us to stop chasing everything and start focusing on what truly matters. In today's presentation, we will explore the key ideas from The One Thing. We will discuss why not all tasks are equally important, understand the concept of the domino effect, examine some common myths about success, and learn practical strategies that we can apply in our own academic, professional, and personal lives. By the end of this presentation, I hope you will not only understand the central message of the book, but also begin thinking about your own one thing, the one action, habit, or goal that could create the biggest positive impact in your life. Before we explore the central idea of the book, let's first understand the problem it is trying to solve. Today, we live in a world where our attention is constantly under attack. Notifications, social media, emails, messages, entertainment, and endless information compete for our focus every single day. As a result, many people feel busy all the time, but struggle to make meaningful progress toward their goals. We often try to do several things at once. A student studies while checking social media. A professional works while responding to messages and emails. Instead of focusing deeply on one important task, we divide our attention among many different activities. This creates the illusion of productivity, but in reality, it reduces the quality of our work and slows our progress. Another problem is that we tend to treat all tasks as equally important. We spend time on urgent but low-value activities, while neglecting the few actions that could create the biggest results. We become overwhelmed by long to-do lists and confuse being busy with being productive. So how do we overcome these challenges? How do we focus on what truly matters in a world full of distractions? Now that we understand the problem, let's explore the central idea of the book. The core message of the one thing can be summarized in a single sentence. Not everything matters equally. This may sound obvious, but if we look at how most people spend their time, we often act as if every task has the same level of importance. For example, imagine a student preparing for final exams. The student has 10 chapters to study and only a limited amount of time. A common approach would be to divide the time equally among all 10 chapters. However, what if 2 of those chapters contain the most important concepts and are likely to contribute significantly to the final grade? Wouldn't it make more sense to focus on those chapters first? This is exactly what Gary Keller and Jay Papasan want us to understand. Some activities produce far greater results than others. Success is not about completing the most tasks. It is about identifying the tasks that create the greatest impact. The authors argue that extraordinary success is achieved sequentially, not simultaneously. In other words, successful people do not try to accomplish everything at once. Instead, they focus on one important thing, complete it well, and then move on to the next important thing. Think again about Cristiano Ronaldo. His success did not come from trying to become a world-class footballer, businessman, actor, musician, and athlete all at the same time. His primary focus was football. By dedicating years of effort to one area, he achieved extraordinary results. This idea is also reflected in one of the most powerful questions from the book. What is the one thing I can do such that by doing it, everything else will be easier or unnecessary? This question forces us to think differently. Instead of creating long to-do lists, it encourages us to identify the task that will make the biggest difference. For a student, the one thing might be mastering a difficult subject. For an entrepreneur, it might be improving customer satisfaction. For an athlete, it might be consistently following a training schedule. The goal is not to do everything. The goal is to find the activity that creates the greatest impact and focus on it. This brings us to one of the most memorable concepts in the entire book, the domino effect. Imagine a row of dominoes standing one behind another. When the first domino falls, it knocks over the second. The second knocks over the third. The third knocks over the fourth. Eventually, a single push creates a chain reaction that affects every domino in the line. According to the authors, success works in exactly the same way. A small but important action can trigger a series of larger results. Let's consider a simple example. Suppose a student decides to study for just 1 hour every day without fail. At first, this may seem like a small commitment. However, over time, that 1 hour leads to better understanding of subjects. Better understanding leads to higher grades. Higher grades create confidence. Confidence improves motivation. Motivation encourages even better performance. What started as a single habit eventually creates significant results. The same principle can be seen in the life of successful people. Cristiano Ronaldo did not become a football legend overnight. Success began with one practice session, followed by another, and then another. Each training session acted like a domino, contributing to larger achievements over time. The key lesson of the domino effect is that extraordinary success does not happen through dramatic actions performed once in a while. Instead, it is the result of small, focused actions repeated consistently over a long period. Many people underestimate the power of small actions because the results are not immediate. However, just as one domino can start a chain reaction, one focused action can start a process that eventually transforms an entire career, business, or life. Therefore, the challenge is not to find hundreds of things to do. The challenge is to identify the first domino, the one thing that deserves our attention right now. Once we identify that domino and push it consistently, success becomes a natural consequence of the momentum we create. After understanding the core idea of focus and the domino effect, the authors introduce what they consider the most powerful tool in the entire book, the focusing question. According to Gary Keller and Jay Papasan, successful people are not necessarily those who have all the answers. Instead, they are often the people who ask better questions. The focusing question is simple. What is the one thing I can do such that by doing it, everything else will be easier or unnecessary? At first, this may seem like an ordinary question. However, when we examine it closely, we realize how powerful it is. Most people approach their goals by asking questions such as, what should I do today? How can I finish everything on my to-do list? How can I be more productive? While these questions are useful, they often encourage us to focus on quantity rather than impact. The focusing question works differently. Instead of asking us to do more, it asks us to identify what matters most. Imagine that you are a student preparing for an important examination. You may have dozens of tasks competing for your attention. Reading notes, solving practice questions, watching lectures, making summaries, and revising previous topics. Rather than trying to do everything at once, the focusing question encourages you to ask, what is the one thing I can do today that will make my exam preparation easier? Perhaps the answer is mastering the most difficult chapter. Once that chapter is understood, many other concepts become easier to learn. Similarly, an entrepreneur might ask, what is the one thing I can do to grow my business? Instead of chasing multiple strategies at the same time, the answer may be improving customer satisfaction or increasing product quality. An athlete might ask, what is the one thing I can do to improve my performance? The answer may be maintaining a consistent training schedule rather than constantly searching for new techniques. The beauty of the focusing question is that it creates clarity. It forces us to separate what is important from what is merely urgent. It helps us focus our energy where it will produce the greatest results. The authors suggest using this question in every area of life: education, career, health, finances, relationships, and personal development. By consistently asking this question, we begin to identify the actions that create the biggest impact. Instead of being overwhelmed by hundreds of possibilities, we gain a clear sense of direction. However, if focusing on one important thing is so powerful, why do so many people struggle to do it? According to the authors, the answer lies in a set of common misconceptions that they call the 6 lies between you and success. These are beliefs that sound reasonable, but often prevent people from achieving extraordinary results. The first lie is that everything matters equally. Many people act as though every task on their to-do list deserves the same amount of attention. In reality, some activities have a much greater impact than others. For example, replying to emails and scrolling through notifications may keep us busy, but they rarely produce the same results as working on a major project, preparing for an important exam, or learning a valuable skill. The authors argue that success comes from identifying the few activities that matter most rather than treating every task equally. The second lie is that multitasking works. Modern society often praises multitasking. People take pride in handling several activities at the same time. However, research shows that our brains are not truly multitasking. Instead, we rapidly switch from one task to another. Every time we switch, our concentration decreases and mistakes become more likely. Imagine trying to study while checking social media, replying to messages, and watching videos. Although it feels productive, our attention becomes divided, and the quality of our work suffers. The book argues that extraordinary performance requires focused attention, not constant task switching. The third lie is that a disciplined life is necessary for success. This idea may sound surprising. Many people believe that successful individuals have unlimited discipline and self-control. The authors disagree. They suggest that success does not require being disciplined all the time. Instead, it requires enough discipline to develop a few important habits. Once those habits become automatic, they require far less effort to maintain. For example, a student who studies at the same time every day eventually turns studying into a habit. At that point, discipline becomes less important because the behavior has become routine. The fourth lie is that willpower is always available. Most people assume they can rely on willpower whenever they need it. However, the authors explain that willpower is limited. It decreases throughout the day as we make decisions and face challenges. This is why many people start the day with good intentions, but struggle to maintain them later. As a result, the book recommends scheduling important work during periods when our energy and willpower are at their highest. The fifth lie is that a balanced life is the ideal goal. Balance sounds attractive, but the authors argue that extraordinary achievement often requires temporary imbalance. Consider an athlete preparing for a major competition or a student preparing for final exams. During these periods, more time and energy must be devoted to a specific priority. This does not mean ignoring other areas of life forever. Rather, it means accepting that important goals sometimes require concentrated effort, and attention. The sixth and final lie is that big goals are dangerous. Many people avoid ambitious goals because they fear failure. The authors encourage the opposite approach. They believe that thinking big inspires bigger actions, greater commitment, and higher standards. Most extraordinary achievements began as goals that seemed unrealistic at first. By thinking small, we limit our potential. By thinking big, we expand our possibilities. Together, these 6 lies reveal why many people remain busy but fail to achieve extraordinary results. They treat everything as equally important, divide their attention among multiple tasks, rely too heavily on willpower, seek perfect balance, and avoid ambitious goals. The authors challenge us to replace these beliefs with a different mindset, one based on focus, priority, consistency, and purposeful action. Ultimately, the focusing question and the 6 lies work together to deliver the book's central message. Success is not about doing more things. Success is about identifying the right thing, giving it your full attention, and pursuing it consistently over time. When we learn to focus on what truly matters, we move closer to achieving extraordinary results in every area of our lives. Now that we have explored the key ideas of the book, an important question remains. How do we turn these ideas into action? After all, understanding a concept is one thing, but applying it consistently in real life is something entirely different. This is where Gary Keller and Jay Papasan move from theory to practice. They argue that success is not created by knowledge alone. Success comes from taking focused action on what matters most. One of the most practical strategies they introduce is called time blocking. According to the authors, many people claim that certain goals are important to them, yet their calendars tell a completely different story. A student may say that achieving excellent grades is a priority, but spend most of the day reacting to messages, social media notifications, and unplanned activities. A professional may say that career growth is important, but spend most of the day attending meetings and responding to emails without making progress on meaningful projects. The problem is not a lack of ambition. The problem is a lack of protected time. The authors believe that if something is truly important, it deserves a place on your calendar. Time blocking means reserving a specific period of time exclusively for your most important task, your one thing. During this time, all distractions are removed. Your attention is directed toward the activity that contributes most significantly to your long-term goals. Imagine a student whose goal is to perform exceptionally well in examinations. Instead of studying only when they feel motivated, they reserve 2 hours every morning specifically for focused study. No social media, no unnecessary phone usage, no multitasking, just focused work. Similarly, if an entrepreneur's goal is to grow a business, they may dedicate the first 2 hours of every day to strategy, innovation, or customer development before responding to emails or attending meetings. This simple habit ensures that the most important work gets completed before less important activities begin competing for attention. The authors often emphasize that successful people do not leave their priorities to chance. They schedule them. By protecting time for what matters most, they increase the likelihood of making consistent progress. This leads to another important lesson from the book. Many people think success happens suddenly. We often look at successful individuals and focus on the final outcome. We see Cristiano Ronaldo lifting trophies. We see Mark Zuckerberg building a billion-dollar company. We see Warren Buffett becoming one of the world's wealthiest investors. We see successful students receiving awards and top grades. What we rarely see are the thousands of small actions that happened before those achievements became visible. We see the spotlight, but not the preparation. We see the results, but not the process. The one thing reminds us that extraordinary success is almost always the result of ordinary actions repeated consistently over time. Cristiano Ronaldo did not become one of the greatest football players in the world because of one exceptional training session. He became great because he trained consistently for years. Warren Buffett did not build his wealth through a single investment. He built it through decades of disciplined decision-making and continuous learning. Similarly, a student does not achieve academic excellence because of one night of studying. Success comes from months and years of consistent effort focused on the right priorities. This is why the domino effect is so important. Small actions often seem insignificant in the moment. Reading 10 pages today may not seem life-changing. Studying one chapter today may not seem extraordinary. Practicing a skill for 1 hour may not appear remarkable. However, when these actions are repeated day after day, week after week, and month after month, they create momentum. Eventually, the results become impossible to ignore. The lesson is simple. Small actions become big results when they are aligned with the right priorities and performed consistently. As we approach the conclusion of this presentation, it is useful to reflect on the most important lessons from the book. The first lesson is that not everything matters equally. One of the biggest mistakes people make is treating every task as if it deserves the same amount of attention. In reality, a small number of activities are responsible for a large portion of our results. The challenge is identifying those activities and giving them the attention they deserve. The second lesson is that success is sequential. Many people attempt to pursue multiple major goals simultaneously. They want to master several skills, complete numerous projects, and achieve success in every area at once. The authors argue that this approach often leads to frustration and average results. Extraordinary achievement comes from focusing intensely on one important priority before moving to the next. The third lesson is the power of focus. In a world filled with distractions, focus has become a competitive advantage. The ability to concentrate on what matters most is becoming increasingly rare, yet increasingly valuable. Those who develop the skill are more likely to achieve meaningful results. The fourth lesson is the importance of asking better questions. The focusing question. What is the one thing I can do such that by doing it, everything else will be easier or unnecessary? Helps us identify the actions that truly matter. Rather than asking how we can do more, it encourages us to ask how we can do what matters most. Finally, the fifth lesson is that extraordinary success is available to anyone willing to focus. The book does not claim that success is easy. It does not suggest that hard work is unnecessary. Instead, it argues that effort produces the greatest results when it is directed toward the right priorities. Hard work without focus often leads to exhaustion. Hard work combined with focus leads to progress. Before I conclude, I would like each of you to think about your own life. Perhaps you are a student working toward academic success. Perhaps you are building a career. Perhaps you are developing a new skill or pursuing a personal goal. Ask yourself this question: what is the one thing I can do right now that would create the greatest positive impact on my future? Not 10 things, not 5 things, just one. Because the central message of this book is that Extraordinary success is not achieved by doing everything. It is achieved by identifying what matters most, committing to it, and taking consistent action every single day. The one thing teaches us that success is not about being busy. It is not about having the longest to-do list. It is not about trying to be everywhere and do everything. Success is about clarity. Success is about priority. Success is about focus. And sometimes the difference between an ordinary life and an extraordinary one begins with a single question and a single decision. What is my one thing?